Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy, John Deere Classic, DraftKings picks, round 1 underdog entry. The weather, the one and done, the final bets are all in here. If you want to jump around, hit the time code, smash the like while you're doing that as well, and use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now for a deposit bonus of up to $250. Tambo's back in studio, back from Detroit.
Back, made it.
Feel bad. I wanted you to win.
I wanted to win.
I know that you wanted to win. I like your strategy that had things gone your way, like because I went and looked at everyone's rosters, that you would have won if your guys hit. It's not like you were you didn't have the chalk pieces that everyone else had.
Yeah, I skipped out on a lot of the chalk that I knew was going to be very high owned. In hindsight, and it's not just results oriented, I didn't even end up winning, but if I was playing a chalk piece, it would have been Bhatia, but I was sensing like 50% Bhatia. The one I definitely wasn't playing and moved off pretty near the end was McNeely. He ended up being fine. He made the cut, but it was like 77 points or something on that type of salary. So I felt good about all the moves that I made. It's just the way it goes, but that's like I say, first or last. It was pretty close, 47th, but we'll still do $1,000 giveaway. We talked about it's going to be two $200 giveaways to Mayo Media Network listeners, viewers, reviewers, etc. And then I've got another $600, 400 of it, 2 times 200 will go to Ship It Nation members, and then $200 will go to some of the contests and stuff that we did on X at Toe Tag and Tambo. And just a quick note on that, because people ask the tidbits. When I'm on a way to live final, when I'm coming back from it, there's no tidbits, especially didn't see the need for the John Deere Classic. This is going to be enough, I think.
Oh, you think so? So this is the ultimate lazy week.
I think it is, for sure. I know people call it the fifth major. That's definitely internal and inside. We'll see when we get to the ownership later of what that looks like. But still think it's a really good week to play. I just don't feel like I need as much prep for this as something like last week, where it still worked out okay. 4th in the big flagship. I mean, that's like I came 17th in the live final, Pat, if you combine the money.
So you'll be giving away the winners on X. I'll give you the 2 names from the Pat Mayo Experience. Thank you to everyone who entered the contest. We'll be doing some stuff for the Open Championship, obviously, and we'll be doing stuff for week 1 of football. So get yourself code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy. That always gets you in all of the draws if you've done that already. Thank you. If you haven't done it, let's get on that, all right? We got football shows out, too.
Yeah, I'm excited. That's going to be more. King of the Desert is back, so that's for football and golf. We'll see what goes on there. But there'll be more giveaways in the future, hopefully more live finals in my future. But excited to give back and start with that, and excited for NFL to come back around as well.
Well, you kind of mentioned, I mentioned lazy week. We lost Cantlay at the top of this field. We lost last week's winner in Cameron Davis. Taylor Montgomery pulled a WD as well. And that doesn't sound like super substantial, but you lose the betting favorite, the guy who was 6th on the odds board, and like Taylor Montgomery was 50-1. So we lost 3 pretty big names. What do you find that usually does to ownership? Just concentrates it more?
Yeah, just I think for sure Sung Jae. It's going to get a bit of a boost there. I know people like him, but Davis Thompson, McNeely, some of those guys in the secondary range. But the Cantlay one was the biggest one, I think. The Cam Davis one is big because he won last week. I get that. But realistically, some of the guys there, we were like hoping Cam Davis would finish second, because then people would be more likely to be in on him the next week. Oh, he was so close last week. When a guy wins, they're not often as excited to jump right back on him, and so it might have left him a little bit lower owned this week, depending on if you want to play him or not. But I think Sung Jae is our guy that gets the boost. I can't see anybody moving to Spieth too much.
No, neither do I. So, in full disclosure, I did not release it on Monday's show because I did not have an answer. Cust used Spieth as his one and done. So people need to know who's Xander Kurst. It's Jordan Spieth.
There you go.
It worked for Ricky a little bit last week. Ricky made the cut with Tim having picked him.
Yeah, I think Spieth can make the cut here. It's whether or not the old course history shows up or not.
He hasn't played it since he won in 2015.
One thing I'll say, I was backing it a little bit earlier in the season, but I'm kind of going away from it. Maybe this is the week not to shy away from it, but I think that, every place we say, but he always seemed to show up here in the past. That just has not been working out this year, right? Whether it's that wrist injury or that he was mentioning or anything like that, I don't know, but he just has not shown up at the places that he was still showing up when he was having his tougher time.
Well, it's funny because his game is completely different now. That even in those tough times, like I remember his run to the Masters when Reed ended up winning. Like he was the best player on tour tee to green, and he just could not make a putt. He essentially went through what Scheffler went through earlier this season, and he just never got out of it, and then the ball striking went away. Now, for years, like he couldn't drive the ball. He would just be like OB twice around or put himself into such ridiculous scenarios that he'd have to recover, and you can't score that way. You can salvage par that way, avoid bogeys that way with a good enough scrambling game. But now he's kind of an elite driver and can't hit an iron and still can't putt. It's really strange what's happened to his game.
The thing is, we'll get to it later, but when he's not owned is usually the best time to play him. So we'll have to wait and see. But, it looks like pretty heavily congregated at the top with like Im, Rye, Straka when we get to all that stuff as well.
So let's jump over to Underdog Fantasy, try to find some round one pick'em on the go. I identified on the research show, this is another one where because of 1 year where guys just were not hitting the fairway, it was only a 62% clip, that it's kind of skewed the averages down. The average driving accuracy at TPC Deer Run over the past 5 years is still 70%. So anything 9.5 or above is going to be average. If you have good guys, then obviously they're going to go above that. So I found two off the hop that I really liked in terms of the fairway hires on Underdog. I took Svensson, 9 fairways hit higher in round one. Glover, 10 fairways hit higher. I mean, that one's you can only miss 2. I mean, I guess you can miss 3 and end up with a push out of it, but he's one of the top 10 players on tour right now, or at least in this field in terms of driving accuracy. So I enjoyed that one. And you had Svensson, who's inside the top 20 right now. So that was more the angle that I wanted to take. Did you have any sort of take on these guys?
Not really. I was looking at weather a little bit too, just to see. I mean, in the past, I can say this for sure, and I know a lot of the people out there betting the first round leaders and still reading some of those articles this week just to catch up, was the AM tee times that have been pretty solid here seemingly every year, whatever it may be, and if there's rain coming in or anything like that. But didn't see anything too special with it, but I would still be fine targeting it for first round. So anybody that you like in that round 1 AM pool, Sungjae, Spieth, Mitchell, Poston, Hubbard, some of those guys, they're all here as options depending on what you'd want to roll with for them. But I think I would target some of these AM guys.
So I'm going to go, I mean, in terms of fairways, I don't know if it makes that much of a difference, especially looking at the Thursday weather report, but we can go Svensson, McNeely. So I took Glover out. McNeely's 9.5 fairways hit, and he too ranks inside the top 20 over the past 12 rounds in terms of driving accuracy. So maybe we try to find one of these guys from the AM wave and go higher birdies or better or something like that on them.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah. I was just looking to see Keith Mitchell, I believe, is early.
Does he have to make a putt? Because that's a problem, as I found out last week.
I was watching it live, and it was not a problem until he got to 15 and gave up. We literally watched him, the visor tilted up. It was over at that point. He 3-putt the 15th, where we were all at, which was a par 3. Watched him on 17, hit a beautiful bunker shot, missed that short one, and then missed the short 5-footer that he needed at the last. But to me, that's still fine. Like, I honestly think that's, once you're out of it, his last hurrah was to make the cut, but still. And he's got a 5 birdies or better, not 5.5 like most, and it's
juice,
scorcher.
Yeah. All right, so if we throw Keith on here, you think he can get to 6 birdies?
Killer Keith. Yeah, there's birdies for days out here. I mean, he can definitely do it.
I suppose that's true.
It's, again, too, we talk about this all the time. What we like about Pick'em is that you could target that, you could target the strokes, whatever, but he can make 6 birdies and 5 bogeys and still have a bad day, but we still hit our Pick'em.
Yeah, the other one I was looking at was Sam Stevens.
Might be a good way to get access to him here, yeah.
But I was thinking about going lower on him because Sam Stevens, when you go back and look at his track record at almost every course, if it's a longer course, plays really well. Shorter course, plays pretty poorly. This one's a bit in between, but I would venture to say it leans on the shorter side of things.
Yeah, it's a scorcher.
The
lower.
The lower
is on him because they have him at 4.5. So they're with you on will he make birdies, but if you want to really take it on with the lower, it's 4.5, 1.1x.
Would you rather go higher on the 5 birdies or better for Keith Mitchell or lower than 4.5 birdies on Sam Stevens?
I'm pretty sold on my Mitchell analysis, so
I would get some Mitchell in your life.
I don't think it's going to be crazy. I don't think he's going to be completely unowned when we get to other stuff later either, but I'm just saying I do think it's a bounce back spot, and if you liked him for last week, as many did, including myself, and I watched what happened, a lot of it was just those missed putts. Hopefully he can make some this week, but he was right there.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's go Adam Svensson, higher than 9 fairways hit. Maverick McNeely, higher than 9.5 fairways hit. And Keith Mitchell, 5 birdies or better or higher. We don't have any anti-correlation in this. That's why I was thinking about using Sam Stevens. So it leaves us at 5.59x, which is not terrible.
Not bad at all. And for stuff at this type of course that I think is realistic and can definitely happen, you targeted it from the fairways hit perspective. I'm going back to the well on a guy like Mitchell. I think it's solid.
The other thing you can do is try to look at greens and regulation. That might be a good Keith Mitchell type play as well. I mean, obviously, it won't be the scorcher, so it won't be as much. But if you have, I think it's like anything above 13 or 14 is basically field average for the amount of greens and regulation hit here. And that's where most guys are at this week, are at 14. I'm guessing that Keith Mitchell is probably...
He's 14 and a half.
He's 14 and a half because, he's one of the best approach players on tour.
Yeah.
What's Sungjae's number for that? Oh, they've locked the Straka fairways hit. They know we're talking about it right now because that even though that was 10 and a half, he's number 1 in fairways.
Sungjae is also 14 and a half when it comes to greens and regulation.
What's Spieth? Spieth is, could we go lower? Spieth 14 and a half? Guy can't hit irons.
Can't hit an iron. Yeah, don't hate that if we're adding another.
We can add another. Now we get it up to...
Are we doing a 4-banger?
Well, we'll see here. That pays 10x.
Always feels nice to get at least 10x.
All right, we'll go 100. 100 pays 1,000.
Easy.
Done?
Easy game.
So Spieth lower than 14 and a half greens in regulation. Keith Mitchell higher than 5 birdies. 5 would end up being a push. And then higher on the fairways hit for both McNeely and Adam Svensson. That'll be our entry for round 1. You can also play in the Pat Mayo Experience Classic up on Underdog and do the round 1 draft. I'll be jumping into those a little bit later on. You can do all of that with code Mayo. And if you want to play this entry along with us, I'll throw it in the show notes, and it will be available in the Final Bets newsletter
10X.
coming out on, I guess, Wednesday evening.
Get the 10x 4-banger. We're good to go.
Is this the least fun week of the year for golf?
I don't mind it as much as others do, probably. I could think of it. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but it's definitely more fun than others. I like this tournament.
I like this tournament, too. It's just where it's now falling on the schedule that we had this run of elevated events and then a major championship, and then knowing that we have the Scottish next week and then another major championship, then like the Olympics are coming. That it's kind of like in the dead center of kind of the nadir of the season.
Yeah, I'll get crushed for this take, but I'm not a big Olympics guy. I just don't care. Like, I'm going to watch it, obviously.
Yeah,
I get it. It's great, but I was going to say maybe the least fun run. As much as I will love the Open, I don't mind the Scottish either, by the way. So, like, that little combo pack you get. But I'm not a big playoffs guy, not a big Olympics guy. This week is whatever, and it's, I guess, because it's NFL around the corner. That's what it has to be.
I suppose. I like the Wyndham, and I like the 3M, actually.
The Wyndham's like all your guys, though. That should be like the Pat Mayo special. That's maybe, all of your guys.
If Wyndham falls out as a sponsor, maybe Mayo Media Network can come in and sponsor that tournament.
It would be the best one for you to do so because it's all your dudes.
And if RBC pulled out of the Heritage, I could start sponsoring that as well.
Yeah.
I need to raise some. Maybe we have to do a giveaway for give Pat money so he can sponsor this tournament.
I would have had to probably win that milli last week.
Yeah, we probably need to win a few millions.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. That's right.
What did you make of the course anyway in Detroit?
Awesome. Yeah, I know it's not for everybody. And if I guess I shouldn't say I feel like I'm not a golf guy, so I don't play golf. I didn't play on Monday. I don't care about that side of it. But I'm saying as far as like a fan perspective, to be able to walk it and the setup, obviously it drains like shit. It's Detroit Golf Club. It's not some amazing. I wasn't saying it like that. I'm more so saying for me, what we did and how you walked in, it was very easy, very accessible. Got to meet a ton of people. We were up on the 15th. The experience was good. The fans solid. Like I actually thought it was a really solid setup that way. I know it's not going to check off many boxes when it comes to top golf courses in America, but fun tournament.
The weather for the week, for those who want to know, I'm using the Iowa-Illinois Memorial Bridge as my wind tower, and it looks like there's going to be significant wind on Friday and maybe some rain, and then it's pretty windy on Saturday, and then it's like wildly windy on Sunday with rain all day. So I don't know what they're going to do on the weekend, but Thursday looks great.
Yeah, well, we'll get those Keith Mitchell birdies on Thursday. That's why it's a good round 1 option.
Does that change your strategy at all? Not just even in terms of AM, PM, but in terms of the types of players that you might want to go with?
No, I think we're going to see like 6 birdies instead of 8 in some cases. I just again, this course gets beat up every single time. We've seen different weathers across the years, things like that. I'm still pretty confident we're going to see quite a bit of scoring.
All right, let's go to the bets for the week. I made all of my bets on the show Monday, so hopefully people were able to watch that or get their bets in before Cantlay withdrew, unless you were betting Patrick Cantlay. But I got Sungjae at 20. I think he's down to 14 now in some spots, 12 in some spots, but just he's been the guy that everyone has gravitated towards this week, and I think a lot of that happened early before Cantlay was out. So I have him at 20. I took Seamus Power at 75 to 1, like a lot of people this week. I also went with Neil Shipley, Joel Damon, and Jake Knapp in the triple digits. I did see that Damon was down to 60 now, though. So not only did he get his odds cut because of Cantlay, people steamed him as well. So that's never a fun scene, but he rates out really well here.
Yeah, I could see it. I definitely feel like it's going to be somebody like that gets it done here. I just don't know. Obviously, Cantlay's out. Sung Jae just becomes a guy that people gravitate towards, like, huge winner. Sung Jae M, like, he's got wins. I love the guy. I cheer for him more than anyone, but it's really a product of Cantlay out and people being thankful they got those odds. I don't think people really think he's winning that often.
Like, the only other guy I can really see, like, there's a few names that just kind of popped up. Like, people have bet Luke Clanton all week. He's down
awesome dude, by the way.
He's down to 35 to 1 to win this golf tournament. That's crazy.
That's a bit much.
Dunlap, I saw people were going towards. I don't know if I can do it with him. He just has one bad round all the time. He has the one really hot round, and then it's like, oh, Nicky's making a move. It's like, oh no, he's going backwards.
Yeah, just back to the Clanton thing for a sec. People were really betting Thor last week, down to I think 40 even. Like, his number was, I don't know what it is this week, but just to say it, like, that reminds me of what's happening here this week. People just jumping amateur to amateur because they are really good. Think about last week again. You had Clanton in the mix. Shipley was playing great. Thor is still awesome. Like, you have all these guys that we're watching out there, and it was just something that I thought of. But, it feels like that for Clanton this week, and even when we get to pricing later, he's up there for what he was.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Knapp, the Shipley, I mean, Shipley's the guy that I'm doing that with this week. I actually thought he played quite well last week. He just couldn't drive the ball, didn't make a ton of putts, but the approach play was really good. So with all those guys, Damon included, I played the top 5 each way to go along with him. So I'm not really super highly invested this week in the betting card. Like, I have other guys I could add. It's just I'm looking at the sports like, who the fuck do I want to add?
Yeah, it's a really tough one. I'm most excited to play DFS this week because of what we talked about earlier, the lazy week, the congregated ownership, bunch of other guys bailing that forced that a little bit more, and then just the ability that it is a tournament where anybody, Michael Kim, when he won it that year, like, just can show up out of nowhere and just go off. You could see that here, so just getting different in tournaments is definitely going to be the key.
Do you have any names from the back of the pack that you actually do like? Be it Svensson's not even back of the pack. Like, David Skins rates out really well for me this week.
Yeah, he rated out good for us, too. We were talking about him in the Discord and in our Course Fit rankings. So Skins was one that was down there. Old school Ryan Moore shows up a little bit. He was another guy. Who else? Chad Ramey could just pop up, out of nowhere. We've seen him do that in the past at these easy scoring courses. And then
the only guy that, like, just because he's been lingering around and he can actually make putts. I mean, that's the big thing. Like, I bet Keith Mitchell last week. Obviously, that didn't turn out so great. And if the winning score we do project to be around minus 20-ish, higher or lower, whatever it might be, can Keith make enough birdies without making enough bogeys along the way to win at a minus 22? I don't know if he can. Like, when he won the Honda, it was minus 8. It feels like that would be the sort of tournament that he's going to win. Almost like we talked about with Will Zalatoris a lot of the time. Like, is he going to make enough 5-footers to actually run away and win this tournament? Now, Lucas Glover won this tournament. That guy can't putt. That week, he did putt a ton. Basically, every time that he does putt well, he wins tournaments because the rest of his game is so good.
I think it's more they'll give us these spike rounds. Like, even with Zalatoris last week, you saw, he was up there for a little while and then not, right? So it's like you get that out of these guys if they show up and have a good couple of days. But I think I'm leaning more in like that range of like Kevin Yu.
Also a guy who can't putt.
But when he does, it's like a 9-under round, and sometimes that'll just boost him enough. And if it's on a Saturday, like at the 3M last year, he's like kind of into the mix. So it's just I'm seeing like back in that range I'm talking about. Patrick Rogers, people are talking about Shank, Doug Gim, Lee Hodges, some of those guys. So, that's where I feel like the winner is going to come out of just because. Like
the other guys that I had identified, depending on how low you want to go, I might go back to my guy, Pearson Cootie, for the second straight week. He rallied to make the cut for me. That was nice, but like he just lost his ability to hit the ball on Sunday, and that was the end of him. Ben Coles actually rates out really well, and he's someone who can putt. So I have a
feeling like Sky's going to be on that guy.
Ben Coles?
Yeah.
And then Ben Silverman was the other one. Like, this is a perfect Ben Silverman course. I don't know if it's going to be a winner type bet, but like a top 20, I could most definitely see that. Like, he hits his wedges great and he putts a ton. That's the Ryan Moore strategy to winning this event.
Yeah, I got to say, I do appreciate Ben Silverman. I was doing some reflecting yesterday, and as bad as it went at this live final, I forgot the only reason I was in it was because Ben Silverman made a 26-foot chip in off the green to make a cut, to get me a 6-6, to get me those 3 entries into the original finals. So got to give Ben Silverman a big shout out, but I like your Coles call. Don't mind Silverman. I will say though, Pat, just from a strategy perspective, that's another thing is like, man, any of these guys can just pop. And it's like, people are going to just congregate to certain spots here. You're going to be able just to get these guys. You need the ceiling outcome. The made cut is not going to do you a thing at these events. Like it helps. It's a starting point, of course.
The only way that becomes a thing is if Sungjae, Straka, or Aaron Rye miss the cut.
Yeah, and I also think it could be something like where Sungjae.
Oh, good news. The water boil is over.
I was like, do you think it's your phone when it's actually mine?
It's everyone's an emergency alert.
Emergency alert.
We had to, something broke down with like the water treatment plant. We've been having to boil our water for the past 36 hours. This is a tough scene. Not here, not where the studio is, but at my house, you had to.
We had a tough scene. I don't want. It's a good show, but it's just to say it. This was hilarious. The Facebook group. So the new place we moved to, we're on a drilled well.
Yeah.
The lady posted about the boiled water thing. Every single person there's on a well, and then someone called her out on it. It was a tough scene. But she's like, "Well, I just wanted to let everyone know in case." And it was like, "Oh man." But yeah, it's been tough for other people I know, and nice to see that that's finally over.
Paul?
Was Cust bragging or like looking for credit because he only drinks bottled water?
I don't know. I mean, there's a chance he didn't even know this was happening.
That's fair.
He might have tap water like muted on his emergency alerts, but that's good. You don't have to like pour bottled water. Everyone just turned into Cust for a day.
Yeah.
They had to get some bottled water and pour it on their toothbrush.
Day
and
in the
be good to
life,
go.
exactly.
Although I don't know like how, I think it was one of those things where if you drank the water, like it wasn't that big of a deal, but like you could get sick. So they had to be like, yeah, you can't drink it.
I think the toothbrush part was okay. I would still probably not be risking it too far, but yeah, I was gonna say drinking it, not usually the case.
No, I didn't drink it, so there we go. So yeah, those are the bets. Like so I'm gonna congregate around Silverman, Coles, maybe Cootie towards the back end because I have one guy lower than 75-1 this week, and it's Sungjae.
Yeah,
it's like Sungjae or bust, and hopefully these other idiots get into it. I do like Seamus Power a lot though.
I think those, like this, back to the Sungjae thing for a second, and Power's fine, but like you said there, if him, Straka, all those guys bust up top, but I think like that's where you could still see them get into the mix of the winning line. Like, not that that's a crazy statement, but I'm saying like when you have your guys that you're on down low, if Cootie comes through and gets the win, it probably isn't going to matter if Sungjae finishes 20th or 15th or whatever, because then you're probably fine. You're going to need something to balance that out anyway, so you can get away with it.
No, what I'm saying is that if those guys miss the cut, then like a 5 of 6 is in play to win. Big tournaments.
Yeah, 6-6 will be low because it's variance fests, right? People on Birdie Fest is more of a variance fest like last week, but it does depend on what those guys up top do. And I think there will be, when we get to building, double stud builds, like 2 10K guys that become a bit popular here.
Well, there should be, because I'm looking down the pricing, and I mean, I talked about this with Raza last week, that even in Detroit, like there wasn't a substantial difference between the guys in the 5,000 and the 7,000 last week.
Yeah, well, we didn't get to do the show last week because obvious reasons, but that was the thing that's funny about this. Last week, the highest priced guy was Tom Kim, $11,000.
Fade of the week on the show, Tom Kim. Tom Kim in lineups.
I liked it. I like that fade, but they brought a 5K range in that had like 90 guys in it. Or 45 guys and 90 total, from like 6,900 and down. This week, highest price guy, 11K, even with or without the WD, they did not bring the 5K range in. So now you have like 45 guys in the 7K range versus not the case last week.
And it's funny because then we start looking at it, like now that Spieth is the highest price guy at 10.5, no one really wants to use Spieth. Although he'll get ownership just because there's so few options.
Seems like that 15% range seems right.
Whereas if Cantlay was in, he probably would have been like 8%, I think. Like, people would have found the money to get to Cantlay or saved it with him or Straka.
Oh, okay. I thought first you were saying, like, I don't think Cantlay would have been 8%. I know what you're saying now. It would have forced
it would have pushed
even
Spieth
more.
out.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
Cantlay is out, it's going to rise Spieth up
Absolutely.
from the ashes, potentially. He could be the Phoenix in Silvis this week.
Could be. But
Probably
it definitely
not.
does help. I agree with what you said. Like, that was going to be the case. Cantlay would have been super popular here.
But we saw it last week when Roz and I were going through it. Like, we just took a look at all the stock ownerships, just like, oh yeah, no one is playing Ricky or Zalatoris. And I think you can almost do the same thing this week. Like, no one is playing Spieth or Jason Day.
That is true. Day is the other guy that's definitely getting squeezed down here because people do like McCarthy, McNeely. Davis Thompson's been like the bet of the week for many that I saw.
Yeah, I feel like that only goes poorly. I hope he wins. If one of my guys doesn't win, I know there's so many people on Davis Thompson that I would like to see him win for people. I'm usually quite encouraging of that if my guys can't win. It's not like, well, if I didn't win, I don't want to see anyone win. No, I'm not like that. But it just feels, as someone who has been a long time Davis Thompson supporter, every time you think he's going to do something, he's just terrible.
Yeah, and I don't think like he's getting squeezed by any means because he's going to still get ownership, and McNeely and McCarthy around him. They're going to all get similar ownership, but it feels more to me like a McNeely bounce back than a Davis Thompson continuation.
Who did I use last week in my main team for the one and done? Let's see here. Oh, I used Keith Mitchell. That was good. Went from Scotty winning the Travelers to Keith Mitchell. So I'm still in the money, out of the money in the other one, and dropping quickly. This week isn't going to make that big of a difference. It would be nice to pick up some cash here.
Yeah.
So what do you think the people do? Do they use Spieth, or is this like, let's burn Straka, let's burn Sungjae, let's burn Denny, like one of those guys?
It feels
Davis
like
Thompson.
the latter. Yeah, I feel like it's that play, right? If you, I think the Spieth thing is, what else are you saving him for?
Open, maybe.
I guess.
The open would be open, or next week would be the two spots, because, I mean, if there is a spot where his game can now play a little bit more, I think it's at a link style course.
So that would make, okay, so what I would say is this. I don't think people are thinking like that, but that is a great point. And if I were, that would now lead me to not waste Spieth there just because you think I have nowhere else to use him and he used to have good course history. I would see if he can get it right on something like a link style course where, you know, like you said, the setup would be different.
But it all depends on where you're at as well. Like the team that I have in 1500th place, maybe I will use Spieth at Troon, because no one else is going to use Spieth at Troon.
That's your makeup.
And
brand, yeah.
I need a winner that no one else has in order to get back into it. Like simply, I mean, I don't have Scotty available as an example. Just taking Scotty, like what does that really do for me?
I was told Justin Rose is winning Troon anyway.
Well, he's not in the field, so that's tough.
He got in yesterday.
I thought he didn't get in.
He did get in. That was Sergio who did not get in.
Sergio didn't get in.
So, but that's why I'm making fun of. Rose is, you know, the greatest player of all time now, and he got in through the queue, so he's going to go on to win like last time where he was in the mix with Stenson.
I kind of want to bet Patrick Reed this week in Munich.
Okay.
Just to get himself into the Open. Majors are more fun when Patrick Reed is there. Same as Sergio. Majors are more fun when Sergio is involved.
I feel like we don't notice it as much anymore. I would have agreed with you more in the past. I just don't.
Because they're not in them.
They don't get the buzz, and then they don't get any camera time, and then they don't play well. So it's like a lose-lose-lose.
Yeah, well, Reed gets 0 camera time.
Yeah, that's pretty
Like,
natural.
ever.
Because
Even
when
if
he does, he's caught cheating. Is that why?
He came second at the Masters 2 years ago. They may have shown one shot of his all week.
Wasn't it like that? That's just what happened with Bryson until he was in the mix. Was it maybe this one or the previous? I know when he won the U.S. Open, we were getting camera time, but maybe it was at the PGA Championship when he was kind of in the mix and we were waiting forever, and then they finally had to show him.
No, I feel
Can't remember which one that was.
They gravitated towards Bryson a lot because it worked both ways for him. It's
Yeah.
like either Bryson is struggling and they love showing that, or he's playing great and they also love showing that. Like they can't. Brooks was the weird one. Like they only show Brooks if Brooks is in contention, and then they're all over Brooks and slob his knob a lot. But
In case he wins another major.
Yeah.
And they have to because it's like monumental. And it's all this stuff.
And
yeah.
he is a draw. Like people like Brooks, especially at majors. But if he's just kind of playing mediocre, he's not getting the old school Spieth treatment where like Spieth is 18 off the lead. Let's show some Jordan Spieth shots.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He doesn't. None of the live guys really get that out. So let's pick a player here. I'm not going to use. I mean, maybe Sungjae plays Wyndham and I can save him for there. Maybe, but I feel like I'd have another circle of losers I could go to.
I feel like people are just going to go to Sungjae if they have him here.
Yeah, Rye.
I don't think I want to use Rye here or ever, to be honest.
You got to watch some Aaron Rye over the weekend, did you?
I did. That shot near the end was awesome.
Driver off the deck on 14?
That was awesome. But other than that, I think I'm good on that.
I think I'm just going to take Seamus Power.
Don't hate it.
He is a very popular bet this week, though. So that will normally translate itself over to the one and done. Who can I use with my other team? Going to use someone like off the board here. Use Ben Coles.
That might be a bit aggressive.
Nah, who cares? If he wins, that now means I'm betting Ben Coles at 110-1 with the top 5 each way. So I'll go with those two. Not necessarily punting the week, but making sure that if my guys win, I'm the only guys with my guys.
One off the wall quick, and it'll relay to when we segue, but is Eric Cole back?
I don't think so, no.
I think he has 7 of his last 8 rounds in the 60s now, including some 66s, 67s, two tournaments in a row now, and going back to another easy course.
And this would be like the type of course where you would expect him to do well. It's wedges and putting.
If people didn't use him, a lot of people probably got burned on him, but I'm just saying, like, you know, because they thought he was good and then he had that downswing. But right now, he could be back, and this could be a spot where not as many people have him or other people aren't thinking about him. So he's kind of interesting to me as well.
Well, do you think that, is he one of those players at the moment, it seems like he's doing anything people want to jump back on because they were on him for so long? I feel like Taylor Montgomery is that way. Like the moment he starts playing well, people are like, oh, he's back. Let's go.
When was that? It would have been this week, and then he WDs.
Yeah.
Feel like that was the only time I've even seen him in the mix lately, and then they had to prop him up from it, and then he goes and WDs the week after.
So with Eric Cole, despite the rounds in the 60s, he lost strokes tee to green all 4 rounds of the Travelers. He made it up with his putter. And he gained strokes tee to green significantly, actually, against the field, all 4 rounds in Detroit. So he did play really well in Detroit, although the wedge game was really bad.
Might be fine. Around the green and putting.
Yeah, no, the putting was great. The putting has been great.
Just an interesting thought. I think, like, again, some of those guys in that range are sort of where I'm looking. You didn't mention much today on Poston so far. I know we'll get there, but like any thoughts on JT Poston?
Not really, no.
No?
Do you?
Thinking about it, yeah. I think Poston, some of this range, like I said, like Mitchell, Poston, Glover, Cole, Hubbard, all those guys feel like, and they're mostly in the 8K range on DraftKings, but just in general, some of those guys are what I'm seeing that would be the ones to climb to the top of the board here.
Let's move to DraftKings and talk about some of these guys and how to construct some lineups. I'm looking at the ownership right now. Or at least I was looking at the ownership. There we go. There's the ownership. FantasyNational.com/Mayo. Get yourself 20% off, and you can have access to all of this stuff as well. I'm seeing right now that we're reaching up to 5,000 generated lineups at the moment. Spieth, 5% of them.
Yeah.
He'll be higher than that, obviously, but I just thought it was hilarious how low he is. And then Straka, Sungjae, Rai, and Davis Thompson, and Denny McCarthy all above 20%.
Yeah, what are you seeing for the value plays that are getting ownership? Because that's where I think it's going to matter more. Like it's Sungjae, no doubt, at the top. 30% plus, I think, is what we see on Sungjae, and he's going to be in it. It's do people then go to Rai? Do they then go to who you mentioned, like Davis Thompson, some of those guys? Like what does the common Sungjae M lineup look like? And I think it starts by building backwards with the rest of the value plays. So who do you see as the highest owned value plays?
What would you consider to be a value play?
7K range, like mid to low sevens.
Because Hubbard and Power are both kind of spiking in the low 8s.
And that could be what we see as common, but I think, like, do you have like Doug Gim, Lee Hodges, any of those guys popping? Because that's where I want to start.
Damon,
okay,
Shipley, Novak, Lauer at 72, and then Troy Merritt, like 10% in the 6s. It's not going to be that high, but he's coming off a good week. Don't trust Troy Merritt back-to-back weeks ever. That's a thing that no one should ever do.
Yeah.
But I do see him, of all the guys in the 6s, it's like him, and then model guys, like David Skins is showing up. Kelly Kraft is showing up. But because the optimizer will probably fill those out because of the stats that they've built up, but I don't expect them to be that highly owned.
What about
Ryan Moore might end up being the answer to this question.
It is possible. I'm definitely seeing him getting some love there, but it might be Merritt instead, so it's hard to say. But I think you nailed it with Damon, just to make things work. Let's try Damon. Let's plug in your guy Merritt for a second, and it could end up being like we can just swap that if you think it's going to be the other $6,800 guy. I just want to see what that leaves us.
You go Power, Hubbard, and then you can have another one of these 8K guys if you wanted to.
I don't know if that's where people go. I want to see what happens if you put Rye in that. Yeah, see, that's what I'm seeing. Is like you put Rye in that, you only have one 6K guy, whether it's Ryan Moore or Troy Merritt. You still have 7.8K. So who was the low 8K guy you mentioned? Power or Hubbard?
I put Power into this. That would make the 7K guy. It's kind of a dead. Lauer actually becomes the guy, and you have $100 left over.
How much is Lauer? 72.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's Hubbard probably.
Yeah, so it's Hubbard instead of Power to fill out all of your salary.
And if it's not Lauer, it's Johnny Vegas or something too. He popped last week, so people like that. But this looks right. Yeah, Sungjae Rai, Joel Damon, Mark Hubbard, Justin Lauer, and then you get one of Merritt or Moore in there.
It's a really sad lineup.
Don't love it.
Oh boy. So how do we go about changing this?
I was just seeing quickly, if you take Merritt and Hubbard out, you have 76.
Yeah, you would get the Shipley,
Rio and Gim.
Yeah, Novak and...
This looks like more of the chalk because you don't even need a 6K guy. So it looks like, yeah, you go Sungjae Rai, Gim, Rio, Joel Damon, and Justin Lauer. That's looking like the chalk.
Where's Rio? Oh, yeah, there he is. Yeah.
76. He's popping on projections. That's how I know. But
so 2 10Ks, 4 7Ks?
Yes. So lots of ways to get different, I think, this week for sure. Like we said, right out of the gate is just you can go 110K, and it can be a Spieth or a Straka or whoever, and, you know, you can get different even with the Sungjae, but you have to know you're getting different down low. You want to play all those leverage plays at the bottom at that point probably, but...
Who do you think is the most common 9K guy that gets paired up with Sungjae? Davis Thompson?
feels like Thompson or McCarthy.
You feeling Denny?
I don't know, man. I usually am, but I don't know if I'm feeling it, if he's going to get super ownership here and then drop down from there. So let me see here. If you go Sung Jae with Davis Thompson, which feels like it could be a common start, that leaves you 7,500. You still almost land in the same zone.
Sure. Yeah, then you'd have to go one lower, one higher. I mean, this is the case for me most weeks anyway, but if you were trying to jam in, we just clear the slate, start with Sung Jae, and go Sung Jae, Straka, let's say. Put those two in. Who did I like at the bottom? Silverman, 71. Coles. Okay. Ben. K-O-H. All right, there we are. At 6,600. Now we're back up to 78. I like Power. And then it leaves me Damon, I think. Yeah, that works out exactly. I like that lineup better.
Yeah, it does work out exactly. And I think that's very similar to what we had at the start and even projects the same, but it's at least you playing it your way with your guys. It's still the double stud 10K build. It's not 4 7s because you added 2 7s, 1 8, and a 6, but it's really just who you want to mix in. And I don't think Silverman, Coles, Damon, like some of them will have ownership, some won't, but even also at the top, I would say that Straka is probably less than Rye, right? More than Spieth, but less than Rye. I think that's probably what we see, and Im we know is going to be popular. So you're still leveraging it at the bottom. I want to see like what you talked about earlier, like, and I even weird that when I was mentioning the names, they all kind of fell in that range. You like Power.
Yep.
Right? Who are some of the other guys that you're seeing in the 8K range that you'd be comfortable with? Like, what if we put 3 8K guys in here?
I mean, I think we go to your guy, Cole.
Okay.
Because he actually does, I mean, by my projections, he's projecting less than 10%. And that's probably the lowest of the 8s.
I just want to see if you put Im.
I mean, why not Svensson at 82?
And Svensson, there you go. I was going to just see if we put 3 8K. So this is interesting to me. You go Sung Jae. It's not who you play, it's how you play him. But now you jam 3 8K guys versus the original lineup has a 10K with no 9s, no 8s.
You go Damon Gim. If you wanted to.
You can basically close this out. Yeah, like that. And you have a totally different setup. I don't think you can get to Gim, actually, even.
Well, you can get to Damon's, what, 73? So you can get to 74. You can get Spawn played well last week.
Berger or Spawn? Spawn was on that lineup for me, so I'd have to favor him. He was on the fourth place finish there.
Oh, was he? How'd you get to Spawn last week?
Same as you can get to in this week's scoring event.
Yeah.
He was playing for, like, again, he had actually had the all 4 under 70 that even some of the other guys up top didn't get. It was like just that's what some of these guys can do. And this has Cole, who's been like that, Spawn, who's been like that. If you think Damon can do it, this lineup projects almost as good as the original. And we've got 3 8Ks and a 10K with 2 7s. And I think there's still plenty of leverage in here with like Eric Cole, Spawn, some of the mixtures that we got. So this is just another version of what we were looking at earlier, but I like this one.
Just trying to find out who is ranking up highly for me from this range. If I sort by, I went through the walkthrough on the show earlier. Like Skins does rate out really well. Kelly Craft down at 66 rates out really well. Chan Kim at 7,000 is third in what I'm looking at. It's just he can't putt. It's a problem. Minus 4.8, minus 1.5, minus 2.6, minus 3.3. 4 straight missed cuts. Striking the ball incredibly well, playing well tee to green.
Yeah, 7K though. It's priced in.
Sure, but
I don't hate it. Like I'm fine with that. I think
instead of Spawn, you could play him.
Yeah, and if I do that and take out Sung Jae, I was trying to look at if you add like is there another 8K guy like Clanton, Glover, or would you just want to go up to Stevens, I guess maybe?
I'd rather play Glover than Stevens.
So if you go Glover.
Instead of who?
That lands you on Mitchell. So all I did is I kept Power, Cole, and Svensson, the 3 8K guys. I ditched Damon, the other 7K guys, and Sung Jae, and it essentially becomes Keith Mitchell, Glover, Chan Kim. But that's aggressive. It's 4 8K guys. But it's just, again, it depends on what you think the top does here.
Yeah, I mean, I bet on Sung Jae, so I'm good with playing 100% Sung Jae if that's the case.
Yeah, or hedge against it in DFS.
Sure, but it sets up. He
obviously sets up super well.
I mean, depending on how you feel about Straka, I mean, I think Sung Jae is just very clearly the class of this field right now. Like Rye might be second with his amazing tee to green game.
Yeah, God, man, Rye's tough because it's just he
can
fits so well. He looks good. Everything's solid, but it's like, man, is he going to do it again?
Well, maybe. I mean, it depends on the putter, obviously, and that's something that he doesn't do all that well. But if people are going to be basically jamming McNeely, jamming on Denny, jamming on Davis Thompson. At least I know Aaron Rye is going to show up, hit fairways, hit his wedges really well, and whether or not he makes 7-foot putts. Like, that's what it comes down to for him. Like, his consistency, tee to green, is bankable. The putting is absolutely not bankable, where with the other guys, you need them to run a hot putter. I mean, Rye could lose 4 strokes putting and come in 10th. I think he's come top 20 in like each of his past 8 tournaments.
I just got a thought when you said it there that I want to run by you because actually it fits perfect. So here we go.
All right, one sec. Hit me.
I think a lot of people are choosing. So we up top, I don't think people are choosing. We know it's Sungjae, it's Rye. We kind of get the order up top, and even if they're doubling it up in that. But I think a lot of people are choosing between McNeely, Davis Thompson, and McCarthy. We already know that not many people are playing the 9K range in multiples. They're playing it as the second man in, or maybe 2 of them, right? Maybe like a Davis Thompson, McCarthy, or something along those lines, or a McNeely Thompson. What if you play 3 of them? McNeely, Thompson, McCarthy, just to go with the original chalk version of what we had. That lands you on Joel Damon, Troy Merritt, and Chan Kim. And it projects almost the exact same as the original.
Interesting.
Because you gave up Sungjae, you stacked in multiple 9Ks with already solid 9K guys on paper.
Do you think many people do this?
I don't. No.
No, I don't think so either.
I think they choose between McNeely, Thompson, or McCarthy, and I think even if you have say, okay, but Damon and Merritt or Damon and Moore are the popular guys down there, that's fine. But then do they have Chan Kim and a third 9K guy? That's where I would say it's different.
Can we lose Merritt and go to Coles by chance, and then turn McNeely into Rye?
How much is Coles? What's the
66. Yeah, that works out, making that swap.
How much was Ryan Moore then?
Ryan Moore?
Oh, he was 68 as well. Okay, so if you're saying drop down to Coles.
Yeah, Merritt to Coles, you save $200, then you can bring McNeely up to Rye, who I like more. And then, I mean, it's
just that's another one too. Like I have no problem with this either. It actually projects better, but it's like this is the same. Rye is going to be a second man in most lineups. This puts him as a first man in. And even if people say, no, I still think outside of those Sungjae Rye lineups, we'll see people use Rye. Okay. Do they go Rye, Thompson, and McCarthy and then be fine dropping down? Probably not as common, I don't think. I think more people would go Rye, pick a guy, and then drop down into some of that range we talked about of the 4-7Ks.
Okay.
Or you can eat, like, for example, in this lineup, do you like Thompson or McCarthy better?
Thompson.
I would guess most do. So take out McCarthy. Take out Chan Kim. We'll even leave Coles in, and if people are okay with that, this gets you Mark Hubbard. I guess better way to do it is Power and Svensson.
Oh, I like that better. I don't see that much of a difference between Seamus Power, Adam Svensson, and Davis Thompson, and Mav McNeely, and those guys. Do you?
Not really. No, that's what I'm saying. What I'm looking for is not really the guys as much as the constructions, and that's why I'm doing this exercise with you, is I think it makes sense, and you like some of these guys. This actually kind of fits what you were looking at earlier. Rye, you don't have Sungjae. Rye is not a second guy in. He's a first guy in. You picked your guy in the 9K like others might, but you didn't round it out with 4 7K guys like most will. You actually got 2 8K guys you like in there, Damon, but then you rounded it out with Coles, who as much as his name may be mentioned this week, what do you think? Like 5 to 7% at most?
Coles?
Yeah.
Less.
Okay, so there you go.
When you say his name might be mentioned, I'm mentioning it right now. I haven't heard anything.
People are mentioning it.
Are they?
It's
Okay.
going to come up. Yeah, but
I did not know that.
That's the only reason I even give him 5 to 7, though. So I'm just saying this lineup to me is like where people just think you have to go completely off the wall. We've went on these rants plenty of times. I have especially, but the diamond in the rough, this is not really a diamond in the rough lineup, right? You're going with your guy Coles, and the rest of it just kind of fits guys you like. Definitely a different construction, still projects well.
Let's talk about 6K guys for a second, because I am more prone to play these sorts of guys than you are, obviously. But again, in weeks like this, I don't see that big of a difference between some of these guys and guys, hell, even the lower 8s is substantially better, it feels like. But from 78 down, like you can play, Justin Suh. He's a good player. Chad Ramey. Is it Chad Ramey that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, as a guy that could just pop here, yeah. Like we see him on these scoring tracks show up at times.
Like Kelly Craft is an interesting one at $6,600. Like models love Kelly Craft. Mine do.
Yeah, I think most have at least some type of liking for him. But again, like you got Coles right there. If you're going to play Coles in other lineups, I would just stick with him.
Oh, I agree with you. And then I take a look at like Lonto. Lonto actually gained strokes putting and finally missed a cut. First time he lost on an approach in 3 months was the first week he actually made a putt. Was last week in Detroit. So maybe he's starting to round back into form a little bit. that way, but he's someone who's just been kind of on my radar for a while. And he does rate out pretty well for me, but it was Pearson Coody that I was looking at as well. So Coody at 67, Coles at 66. Is there anyone else in the sixes like you're giving significant? Like, could this just be a Matt Kuchar week? Patton Kazire rates out really well for me for some reason. I'm playing David Skins at 69 for sure.
You're looking at Pearson, by the way.
Yeah.
Over Parker, right?
Over Parker, yeah.
Okay.
The games have like flipped a little bit.
I'm trying to see. We're $100 shy.
Yeah. So we have Patton Kazire, 3 top 25s in his past 4 starts. And he's only gained strokes putting in one of those.
I needed a $6,600 guy not named Coles.
Didn't I say, isn't Coody 66?
No, Parker is. Oh, Kelly Craft.
Okay. Smelly Kelly.
Yeah. Or Lanto still fits it as well. Anyway, I think you'll like this lineup better, and we'll just roll it because it's very close to the top. But it is back to an Imrai,
Okay.
but in a completely different way. Remember, it was 4 7Ks before?
Yeah.
No 7Ks. It's
What?
Power, Svensson, Coles, and then pick your poison of Kraft or Lanto. I don't think, like...
Kraft.
Yeah, it's tough to pick. I'm just saying this. My argument with this would be I don't think Coles, to my point earlier on the strategy talk, is I don't think Coles is your diamond in the rough guy. He's a guy you actually are okay with this week. Talked about maybe even betting him at 110. It's not like he's 400 to 1 or 500 to 1, some crazy long shot. So when you have Rye, Sungjae, Power, Svensson, and Coles, your shot that you're taking is really on this final $6,600 guy of Lanto versus Kraft. With it is that decision. But if those other 5 come through, I don't feel like you're really going too far off the board. You have the standard start that others are using, but with 0 7K guys and 0 9Ks, it's a completely different roster construction than the rest of the field's doing while playing some of the same guys that the field are playing.
Trying to figure out where else I can go with this. I like Shipley. I mean, we haven't talked about Shipley at all. You can 2v2 Kraft and Svensson into Damon and Shipley.
Yeah.
And then you get Imrai, Power, Damon, Coles, Neil, Shipley.
And that gets you off the other 6K guy, and you Coles to steal your dude. So, yeah, that's another way to do it. You have 2 7Ks instead of 4. You still get your guy Power, and you still get your guy Coles. So it's kind of another play your guys lineup. But I do think what this shows to me is these double stud will be very
easy?
prevalent. Yeah, they're so easy to get to.
Could you build a triple stud lineup? Could you play, I think you can, Straka, Im, and Rye all together? Nah, it's probably too little.
I think it's Imrai and McNeil, or Imrai and Thompson, sorry, and then you get right in that same range you wanted, right? Once you go to Coles, you can get your guy Pearson Coody in there.
Yeah, Coles, Coody, and one more.
And then you get to 68, which is your, I don't know if you liked Merritt. Or,
I don't like Merritt. I would like more than Merritt. But
you would like Ryan Moore.
I would have Skins. Who can I give up here? I can turn Davis into Denny. Doesn't really make that big of a difference to me. Rye, Denny, Coles, Coody, Skins.
Yeah, still projecting just fine. Like, that's what I mean. This is another different version of it, but you've got 10-10-9, where most are going 10-10-7-7-7. You've got another different version because you have no 8Ks, no 7Ks, and those 6K guys are kind of fitting the bill of what you already talked about today, where there's not much of a difference. And this would play more in a week like this, because that's what I was trying to say. Last week only had, I believe, 19 guys in the 7K range due to the fact that they brought in the 5K range, even though we didn't have Scotty 12.5 or Rory 12.5 or anything like that. That was a little bit trickier, but this week when you have 40-something guys in the 7s, you could just find your leverage or pivot in there, or you could just say that I've still got good guys in the upper 6s that I can compare against them and just beat those guys out because it's a bigger crowd.
So I think because everyone's going to have the same starts, generally speaking. Like, there's only 7 guys that you could really choose from unless you're leaving $5,000 on the table. So your Sungjae paired with one of these guys or 2 of these guys. Should we try to make a Spieth lineup?
Yeah, I just think it's...
the Spieth lineup is basically the same. It just has Spieth.
I was just going to say that. Where I've even had someone say, like, oh, you guys don't... One guy hit me up like a week or 2 ago. He's like, you guys don't do as many combinations anymore. Like, once you get on this grouping, you just stick to it. But I think people are missing the point of this, which is not just to copy these lineups or roll the same thing we're doing. We're doing this exercise to be able to find what the field is doing, the field that we're going to play against, and have to figure out how to beat them in these large field GPPs. a Spieth line, like do whatever we just did.
But with Spieth,
Swap
you're
him
way
to
different.
Spieth for $200 and boom, you're different. We get that. We're not trying to prove that point. That's the most obvious thing on the planet. It's that we're looking for ways to build differently. And what I'm noticing is these double stud builds are just going to be super popular because they're so easy to get to. That's why I was looking at, can we play those differently? Which we showed multiple ways of skipping the 7K range.
That's what it really boils down to here. Can you skip the chalk guys in the 7K range and feel good about it, or maybe play one of them instead of 2 or 3 of them?
Yeah.
And you're going to be way different.
And then I thought the way we did the 9K range, again, but you didn't mention Jason Day. I know. So just turn Denny McCarthy into Jason Day, and you can play that lineup, or you have $100 more to use somewhere else if you didn't like one of our punt plays down low. The point would be, are people really choosing 3 9K guys, or are they choosing between the 3 9K guys? That's a totally different statement. So that's what we're looking at here. And then the last one, I think, Pat, was just the multiple 8Ks. The most we got to really was 2. I know I threw a crazy one, which was probably too many, but I'm saying I definitely could see here where, man, there's a lot of guys here. Glover, Dunlap, Clanton, Cole, Hubbard, Power. These are guys that could contend and be in the mix. And then it just depends. Do you need it with the guy up top, or do you need it with the 1 9K guy?
Here you go. Here's your lineup. Best lineup of the week.
What do we got?
Probably projects for the fewest amount of points.
We'll try it.
Start with Keith Mitchell, $9,200.
Okay.
Glover, Cole, Power, Svensson, Ben Silverman.
I like it. It's too bad you're out on your guy Luke List. I am out on him as well, by the way. But yeah, this actually projects very similar to the beginning. And this is not crazy to me. I know it seems like it is, but a lot to me, let me put it this way. I'm playing Sungjae for sure. It's my guy. He classed the field like you talked about, all of those features. But when you really think about it, a lot of the people betting him in the 20-1 was a combination of, the class of the field and the can't lay WD, where people just wanted to get in on the number. It's not like he's winning a bunch of tournaments, right? So he's playing better, but if these other guys show up and it is this crew up the middle that you need, a lineup like this does have win equity. Like, it's not like Im has Scheffler win equity here.
No.
When people are fading, she's like, can I fade Scheffler? Because I feel like I'm leaving a lot of the win equity, and then you got to move to 6-6 equity and be like, okay, well, I better focus on at least my guys making the cut. Hope Scheffler doesn't do enough. Hope some of the guys with him bust, et cetera, et cetera. I think these types of lineups that we just looked at right here, like you just built, are going to be fine this week, and it just is going to depend on what the guys at the top do.
3 guys that the Fantasy National Simulator likes that I haven't really brought up. One is your guy, Mark Messier.
Oh, nice. Meisner.
He's up there. Jacob Bridgman is one of them. And the other one would be, we brought up Rio, we brought up Berger. We haven't brought up Ben Griffin at all, but he's another one that the simulator really likes, along with Chandler Phillips.
If we do this, I got a lineup for you. Real nice lineup here. What did you say about Phillips?
That I like him. He's fine.
71.
He's the same price as Silverman. I think I like Silverman a little bit more.
All right, let me do this.
Coles, Silverman.
Here's a really unique one. Projects okay too. And again, your Straka can be Straka or Im, but if you go double stud that doesn't include the original double studs, Spieth, Straka, and then you get Rio, Berger, Phillips, Meisner.
Captain Phillips?
Same roster construction other people are using, the 2 with 4, but all the completely different guys. So just that'll satisfy our listeners that want to see more combinations. Just turn all your guys into the lesser-owned guys. Mind you, Rio and Berger could get some love here, but like Meisner, Phillips, all of that. And like I said, if you want to put Straka to Sungjae, you'd even be able to upgrade one more to, like, Berger could become Shipley, for example.
Yeah, not that big of a deal.
But the one thing I will say about this version is it would still be slightly different to me, even though it's not different. I've gone back and forth, the double stud before 7Ks, but how often is Sungjae going to be a second man in? Right? So Straka Sungjae or Spieth Sungjae is a more unique double stud than what we obviously know is Sungjae with Rai or Sungjae with one of those 9K guys people are picking between.
All right, let's draft.
Okay, something happened.
Yeah, I played the wrong lineup against you.
I didn't have a chance to go back and be like, I was pretty sure I got Scheffler and I was excited about it.
Yeah, and
Scheffler.
I totally, I forgot to submit lineups in some spots last week. I just
Auto
the last few weeks
Pat.
I've just been
DQ'd, baby. DQ'd.
You got the DQ win against me because I entered the wrong lineup. Because I play in a season-long league as well. Mm-hmm. And I entered that lineup in the head-to-head, and the head-to-head one in the poorly.
Oh, okay. All right, let's do this then. So I will go.
You get to go first.
Let me see here. Do I want to do Sung Jae or not?
No.
Hey, you want him. I'm just going to see here if I can get to it. So I'm going to go. Let's go Sung Jae to start. Yep.
All right. Now that really that twists what I'm going to do. I'll take Aaron Ryan, Seamus Power.
I will take Keith Mitchell and Mark Hubbard.
You like Mark Hubbard?
Yeah, he's fine. I don't know if he's gonna miss a cut at some point, which pisses me off. But thought it was gonna be last week. It wasn't, so we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's like 17 made cuts in a row, and he scores actually surprisingly well, even though it always shows like 52nd place. There's a lot of scoring in there somehow still. Who's the other guy you took?
I took Power and Rye.
Okay.
I will take Straka
Big Sep.
and Ben Coles.
And I will take Gim. And since I don't have Power, I'll take Justin Lauer.
Okay. So I'm down between 1-2v2 here. I could take Silverman and Shipley. Or I could take Svensson, and 65's too low. Okay, I'll take Shipley and Silverman.
Okay, let me make sure of this. So I have Sungjae, Mitchell, Hubbard, Gim, Vegas, and Lauer. Vegas is my last pick, by the way.
Okay.
I just had it propped up here, so I think I know what I'm at. What's your lineup?
Ryan Straka,
Rye Straka,
Power, Shipley, Silverman.
Shipley, Silverman. Okay,
Ben Coles.
your boy. Ben Coles. And I have you beat by 9 points.
Good. Means I'm going to win.
There we go. Perfect.
I'll have
Perfect
to,
amount.
I'll have to remember to play that one against you. See, can I do that now? The PME has challenged you. I am the PME, though. I don't know how that's possible.
It always pops up for me every week, first of the week, ready to go.
Yeah, it does for me
And I
as
just
well.
reserve it right away, and then I just have it there and make sure as soon as I get off the show, I pop it in.
There, I pumped it in.
Okay, so we're good.
I have the right lineup against you this time.
That's how we got to do it.
All right, that will do it. On the Pat Mayo Experience, I'll give you the winners of the contest draw, and you will release them at Toe Tag and Tambo on X. And if you do that before I release the newsletter, I'll include them in the newsletter as well.
Yeah, I'll have it up pretty quickly. I think we're gonna maybe not by tonight's newsletter, but it'll be up and it'll be posted on X, so people will be able to see who was tagged. Just let me know their handles, and I'll get those out there. And then check out ShipItNation.com. We got a lot going on right now. Just waiting on football to come back around. Some big stuff coming down the pipeline. But use code Mayo if you want to get a discount over there. And we got a lot going on with the golf to round up the season. Baseball's been crushing. Everything else going on there. So ShipItNation.com. Code Mayo gets you a discount.
And we got a ton of content coming out over the next 2 weeks. Football is back. I released running back rankings debate with Chris Meany. That's up on the network right now. I have more division previews with Seeley coming out. I got quarterback rankings with Meany. I have a fun show that I recorded with a friend of mine a few weeks back. That's going to be coming out very soon. So, a longer show to get you going over the long weekend in the United States. And then, we got Open Championship coverage. Going to have a lot of Open Championship coverage.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Love it.
Yeah. All right. At Toe Tag and Tambo on X, at the PME. Use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now. Get yourself a deposit bonus of up to $250. All right. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!